Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of MMA Vision Analysis. This one, I'm here to talk about UFC heavyweight champion Jon Jones and Jon Jones' recent comments in regards to his potential retirement after Stipe Miocic, and that's the fight that supposedly happened at the end of this year, 2024. But before you get started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification to get all of this that is new from this channel, your channel, the one and only MMA Vision Analysis. I would like to start off this video by saying that Jon Jones could take off the gloves, hang those gloves up right now, and he would be considered the greatest of all time to someone. The greatest of all time subject is a tricky one. It's very difficult to actually know who actually is the greatest of all time, but Jon Jones, to many, will be considered the greatest of all time, and many can argue the reasons why they think Jon Jones is the greatest of all time, just like many could argue the reasons why they think George Rush St. Pierre is the greatest of all time, just like so many can argue why they think Anderson Silva was the greatest of all time. You get the idea. And going down the line all the way to the current champs, some people might argue that they think that Islam's the greatest of all time, or better yet, some people might argue that Khabib Nurmagomedov is the greatest of all time, given the fact that he retired undefeated. There are so many reasons why someone can think said person is the greatest of all time. We're talking about the UFC here, but Jon Jones is definitely in that category, or can be brought up as the greatest of all time, and will be considered as the greatest of all time by many people. How I look at it is that I think that there are several fighters who served as a foundation for the sport, to build the sport and make the sport what it is today. It's a relatively new sport. MMA, the UFC specifically, it's a relatively new brand. We're talking about less than 35 years, if I'm not mistaken. And there are names that brought the sport to the forefront, that brought the sport and transformed to, after all, the fighters are what is the reason why people watch fights. From the time of Royce Gracie, and let's say going on to Chuck Liddell, and going on to George St. Pierre, and going on to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Conor McGregor, and obviously Jon Jones has been around for a very long time as well. Those guys serve as a they served as a foundation to transform the sport to what it is today. So in terms of a GOAT, many will consider Jon Jones the GOAT. And I could see why people would consider Jon Jones the greatest of all time. Out of all the names mentioned, maybe Khabib could be considered in what I'm about to say as well. But Jon Jones, I'm talking about Jon Jones prior to 2016. After 2016, 2017, obviously, Jon Jones spent more time outside of the octagon than he has spent inside of the octagon. He's just been inactive for so long at this point. The best part of the last 7 years, Jon Jones has been inactive. He's had a handful of fights in the past, like, let's say, 6 to 8 years. But Jon Jones, prior to let's say 2016, without getting into the details to what was happening with Jon Jones during those times, after, I believe, the second or the first DC fight, there were obviously the PED allegations, and it was, that has to be said, it was small traces of some sort of banned substance, if I'm not mistaken, allegedly. I'm not quite sure 100% the ins and outs of the details of that situation that was unfolding around, let's say, 2015, 2016, I want to say, 2016-ish. But Jon Jones, before that, if you ever witnessed of Jon Jones fight before 2016, and you were to really pay attention to the way that Jon Jones was fighting, you're going to come up with one conclusion. And that conclusion is that when Jon Jones wasn't in his prime and he entered the so-called flow state, he was absolutely unmatched, and he made it look very easy. It was instinctual for him. His stand-up in that light heavyweight division during those times was absolutely second to none. And it was very instinctive. It was a flow state, that I want to call it, that Jon Jones was entering. He was having fun, and he was making it look effortless. I can't really say that for everybody else. Maybe Khabib asserted that kind of dominance in a lot of his fights. And obviously the likes of George St. Pierre and Jon Jones and so many others have asserted dominance in their fights. But nobody in my eyes really did it looked like they were having fun doing it, and they made absolute artistic moments doing it. Jon Jones, in his prime, was top-class entertainment. I think the moments that Jon Jones have created inside of the octagon are legendary moments that generations in the future are going to look back at with awe. I really do believe so. It's not that I believe so, it's the absolute fact. So if Jon Jones was to retire after Stipe Miocic, I would have no problem with Jon Jones retiring even before fighting Stipe Miocic, in all honesty. I would hate for the guy to stay in there to reach the point of diminishing returns. And we do realize that there are hungry lions out there. The likes of Tom Aspinall, the likes of Alex Pereira, whose potential to move up to that heavyweight is very, very high. And so on. Now, some may suggest that this is Jon Jones' way of getting out of the fight against Aspinall or Alex Pereira. It would be amazing for us to see him fight Stipe Miocic, Alex Pereira, and Tom Aspinall. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. It could be. Obviously, it could happen. But if Jon Jones doesn't fight Alex Pereira or Tom Aspinall, I'm not going to look at him as a lesser of a GOAT. If the Stipe Miocic fight doesn't happen, still, I'm not going to look at Jon Jones as a person that hasn't established his legacy, because the legacy's been established. As a matter of fact, I think that Jon Jones could have retired 5 or 6 years ago, and that legacy was already established. It's just my thoughts. So will I be tuned in if Jon Jones gets back in that octagon? 110%. Obviously, even after Stipe Miocic fight. Would it be wise to do so? Me personally, I do believe in Jon Jones, but the momentum is with guys like Aspinall. There is the risk of being in danger against a guy like Aspinall or Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira and Jon Jones are relatively the same size, but it seems like that, Alex Pereira obviously more active and just on fire at this moment. Maybe Ankalaev is closer to Alex Pereira than anybody else to begin with. But there's always that potential. You never really truly know what's going to happen. But I would not look at Jon Jones as a lesser of a GOAT if he doesn't fight Alex Pereira or Tom Aspinall. In all honesty, I've said it many times in this video, and I'll say it again, the legacy has already been cemented. If you made it this far, I appreciate you for sticking around. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe for more.